When it comes to navigating what camera gear I should buy, there's always been one particular group of lenses that I've always been kind of confused by, and that is what I would call why not lenses. Lenses that are so affordably priced that instead of convincing yourself why you should buy it, it feels like you need to convince yourself why you shouldn't buy it. For me, Viltrox's auto-focusing 28mm f4.5 XF lens is one of those lenses. An absolutely tiny autofocusing prime lens for just $99 US. It does have a fixed aperture, and you kind of do get what you pay for in terms of image quality, but that's an incredible deal for someone who wants a lens like this. However, after using it for 2 months, I found that I'm having a difficult time deciding whether or not I think it was worth the money, which is why I wanted to sit down today and chat about it. Starting with what I think is its standout feature, the size. Even though the Fujifilm X-M5 is incredibly compact for a mirrorless camera, what really convinced me to go ahead and buy the 28mm from Viltrox was the size and weight. Paired with the Fujifilm X-M5, the setup is incredibly comfortable to carry around with you all day long on a neck strap or in a bag, maybe even in a pocket. If the portability of your prime lens is your number one priority, then this is kind of a no-brainer. I certainly found it easier to convince myself to bring my camera around on days when I might only shoot 1 or 2 photos. It's so small that I really can't come up with an excuse not to bring my camera with me. And for a lens as pocketable as this, I do think that 28mm is a pretty good focal length. It is a little bit on the tighter side for street photography, but you can still get a lot in the frame. And photos of people will also come out pretty nicely, which makes this focal length nice for something like an all-around vacation lens. It's wide enough so you can get some nice environmental shots, but also tight enough that you can take nice portraits and detailed shots. The photo autofocus is also quite usable. It definitely struggles more inside, in darker environments, and isn't as fast as native or more expensive lenses, but it's pretty good. I only had a shot or two that truly missed focus when it probably shouldn't have, but that's not terrible considering how many photos I've taken over the past couple of months, and the fact that this was $99. The video autofocus definitely is not as good. I would not recommend this lens for anyone who wants to shoot video in autofocus with it. Even when just tapping to switch focus, it was incredibly choppy using the same exact settings that I normally use and have absolutely no problem with for my other Viltrox lenses. I can get a decent shot if I'm just using the single shot autofocus, but I would not trust this for any autofocusing application pretty much whatsoever. The f4.5 aperture is what it is. Because it's fixed, it limits your flexibility when exposing your image. Because it's f4.5, it is really not great when shooting anything in dim lighting or indoors. I got a few good shots at dusk once in a while, but inside was very difficult to expose. So overall, I found that outside in sunny weather was really the sweet spot for this lens. I could crank my shutter speed, lower my ISO, and expose mostly anything well enough. And the shots looked pretty good. And once again, it really lacks on the video side. Because you're losing being able to change your aperture, you're so limited in getting the exposure right that I really didn't find this lens to be worth the trouble of trying to get something properly exposed. A few times I was able to luck out with the lighting and get a few good clips, but in general, because I can't put an ND filter on this lens, I really couldn't properly expose my shot and control the motion blur at the same time. You really just have to hope that the conditions are perfect. I have seen a few people who have 3D printed a solution to this, but I do not have a 3D printer, and honestly I don't think I would have wanted to go through the trouble of trying to fix the ND problem with a 3D printer. I'm not a big pixel peeper. I really just want the photos to look good, and at least as good as the photos that I take on my phone, if not, hopefully better. And overall, I would say that the lens performs well outside. It looks pretty good. There were a few instances where I wondered if my larger primes would have been sharper, like while taking photos of this cool little bird hunting in DC, but I did buy this lens understanding that for this size and price, there would be a sacrifice to the image quality. So if image quality is one of your top priorities, I really would go and find your favorite pixel peeping reviewer and see if they've reviewed this lens yet. Because what's good enough for my standards might not be good enough for yours. For me, when it comes to judging the overall value of a lens, it really depends on whether or not I use it. And because of that, this little guy really has me conflicted. On one hand, it's incredibly easy to slip this into a coat, into a sling, leave it on a neck strap, and carry it around with me all day when I otherwise wouldn't have wanted to bother taking a camera with me. It's really that small and that light. On the other hand, I wouldn't want to take this lens on a trip with me when I actually care about the image quality. So a precious family vacation, an intentional photo shoot, an important trip, I would rather deal with the extra size and weight of a lens that takes better, sharper photos, which surprised me. That being said, if I'm taking this lens around with me on days where I don't really care about the image quality, I could just leave my camera at home and rely on my phone instead. So this lens is really most useful to me in two situations. On days when I don't really care about getting the sharpest, best image, but do want to have most of my full mirrorless experience, or on days where portability is my number one priority. And I do think that if I lived in a more urban environment where I could go outside and walk around and do a lot more street photography, I would probably use this a lot more. And this is the danger of a why not lens. A why not lens is really easy to justify buying. After all, it's so affordable that it wouldn't be that much of a loss even if I didn't use it all the time, even if I might not need it. The danger is buying it because it feels like a good deal, and not buying it because it actually fits my use case. Because while using this lens, I did miss the flexibility, the performance, and the quality of my other lenses. I found that I was forcing myself to use this lens in order to get my money's worth out of it, instead of reaching for it organically because I wanted to use it. It's not a bad lens. It's actually a really impressive lens when you weigh its cost and features, but unfortunately for me, I don't think it was worth it.